Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Spirits and Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Thomas Aarons.
And Carly Bird.
We are here for week 42. Week 42 is here upon us finally. We are getting close to 52 weeks, which, if I'm not really good at math here, guys, but that's a year. 52 weeks is a year. And so we're getting real close. And I just every day I'm just so blessed that we actually got to go this far. How you doing tonight, Carly?
Bless this mess.
I know. Bless this mess that is the person that tries to make a living by talking, which is crazy. Eh, So I had
What?
one. No, hear me. I had one person who actually did a little crossover, watched Fishing the DMV, and then watched this.
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's so amazing that you come across as like so professional and polished." But then you watch this other thing where I have to read, and it's just like,
And it's
what the?
like,
It's
wait a
just
minute.
like a monkey just beating on a drum. It is
Yeah.
just bad. So Carly's gonna save me real quick here. And so Carly, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. We had a fantastic weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend. And we went to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is only like an hour and a half from where we live. So it was a nice little day trip. We actually went out there Saturday and
Mm-hmm.
Sunday. And Saturday we did some museum stuff, walked on the trail, took the dog, went to the taverns, and got some nice fun drinks that are named after
Different Civil War heroes
some
and things. It was really cool.
exactly I was gonna say some soldiers. um and then on Sunday night we booked our very first ghost hunt. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you heard me correctly. Not just your regular old ghost tour, it was an actual hunt. We had to get in our cars, drive to a spooky location following our tour guide, okay? And then he gives us each our own bag. So there are groups, and each group gets their own bag of ghost hunting technology. So we're talking EMF finders, those little radio signal
Yeah, so you
things,
can talk to
those
them.
those bars that you hold that detect um what's it called? They
Like
detect like
the electromagnetic field around the
yes,
ghosts.
exactly, the electromagnetic fields of ghosts themselves. So everybody hands them out. We walked around, we got pictures.
It was really,
We
really cool.
truly believe we saw ghosts on Sunday night, and it was one of the coolest experiences we've ever had for only $45. So I will
Mm-hmm.
totally like
It was
support this company going forward
yeah, it
because
was
it's
neat.
legit.
It was neat. It was just like I guess the whole experience was really cool. Like
Yeah.
I had one kid's like, "Well, you spent that money, you didn't see a ghost." Like, yeah, but it's just still, it's like it's creepy, it's suspense, and it's a history around it too. So if you're a history buff, a lot of these ghost tours, I
Right.
think what made this one so interesting to me is like they really went through the history of it because this is also Gettysburg Battlefield. You got to be on it at night, and which is creepy, and especially when they start telling some of the lore and the stories. Yeah, one that stuck out to me was they had to do mass burials there
Yes.
at Gettysburg. And if you
Right.
guys don't know this, that battle is the single bloodiest battle in American history with the amount of dead that happened, with the amount of people that died there. And the water was actually contaminated for many years afterwards
It gave people
because
dysentery because
because of
of
all
the
the dead.
dead bodies that ended up, I guess, flowing into their water supply, which then in turn the killed bodies, the dead bodies, then in turn killed more people,
Hmm.
hundreds and hundreds of people after that. So,
Really cool, really
yeah.
cool. And we're hoping eventually. I'm working on the information right now to do a Civil War episode, just
Oh,
talking
are
about the
you?
ghosts and stuff. Yeah, because there's so many, like there's so many books there too in Gettysburg talking about the
Yeah.
spirits and stuff,
Yeah.
and that makes sense. Like we've been on for people that have actually followed the show for a very long time. Probably remember me talking about that. That I feel definitely battlefields definitely could be spooky,
Mhm.
especially when you have a lot of loss of life. There's no way.
Same
There's not.
concept as like a cemetery, but even worse because it's where people actually died versus where they got
Yes,
buried.
yes, 100%. And so we are for this episode's spooky stuff in the news, kind of gotta go over our experiences there a little
We're
bit.
gonna share pictures and video footage of the ghosts that I believe I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's gonna agree with me because, of course, to each their own, and
100%.
everybody's got their own perspective. But I truly believe I saw at least two ghosts on Sunday night, and I have footage to prove it.
And I think, yeah, 100%. Like it was creepy. It was really creepy. But we'll get into that in a minute. But first, I think we're gonna get you want to get into our story first and then kind of go over the Gettysburg thing or keep with
I'd
the
like to
Gettysburg
talk
thing?
about what we're drinking tonight,
You know
actually.
what? That is a really good point. And this is why Carly is here to help me with this stuff.
So, when we went to Gettysburg, we came across one of the very first drinks we ever premiered on our
Hmm.
show. They're not really sponsors of us or anything, but they did share our post on Instagram, so that felt special. And it is Jake's Hard Cider. And I absolutely loved their hard cider that Tom got us before.
Especially the tonight we're actually drinking the dry hopped version,
Yeah,
which is I
it's really
I
tasty.
actually really like. So we actually went to their. They have two locations. Again when this episode drops. If you're not watching the live version, that is, we'll drop the link to where you can get all this stuff in the episode description. They have a place that you can actually sample it down there, which I'm so glad we went to that. They are dog friendly too, which is a big
Oh
must
my
for
gosh,
us.
yeah, we were allowed to bring our dog Jojo
Yep,
inside to the air
our
conditioning.
Scooby Doo JoJo.
It was so cute. They gave him a little bowl of water and some treats, and we got to get our little flights. We
Hmm.
each got our own flight. They had 8 flavors to choose
8 different
from.
flavors
Each flight
and a
came with 4 different
coffee
flavors.
alcohol version. That was interesting. I don't know why that one stuck out to me,
Yeah,
but
he did
it
not
was
like that
unique.
flavor at all. He's like, "Espresso, ugh." He
Yeah,
could not
I j
handle it.
not
He
not
took a sip and was
not
like,
my cup of tea.
"No."
But anyway, I really like the dry. They had a really sweet cider, but they also had this really nice dry one, which is like, I don't know, it's just like refreshing,
Yeah, I
like
don't know
not
what this
overly sweet.
picture is.
Hops.
Okay, but it
Point
makes
it
me
to the
think of, like,
camera. So what she's talking
oh,
about
you
there
can
on the
see it, the
camera,
little hoppies.
yeah, the little, yeah, that's what makes the alcohol.
Little hoppies, but they look
But
like
it's really
little
good.
flower buds.
But yeah, so that was yeah, I'm so glad to actually. It's kind of cool to actually go there to where one of our first sponsors was. That was really neat. First people to give us a shout out, give us a chance.
Yeah,
So yeah,
definitely.
huge shout out to Jack Cider again. Great company, great beverages, and we will be shouting out a couple of their beverages in future episodes, of course, as things continue.
Yeah, because they have so many
Oh
flavors.
yeah, so many flavors.
All right, now we can get into the story for today.
So our story today, we're going to go back to our basically our tried and true format, which I think is what everyone actually likes the most. It kind of combines both of our superpowers, hers being able to read words coherently, mine being able to research the history of things. And so for today's venture, we're going to be talking about tree spirits. And this kind of blends the Celtic mythology with the Greek mythology. Um, I think this is really cool. And then Carly has one of the best stories on Creepypasta Reddit page that we'll be going over as well. So to really begin with, the idea of this mythology, we're going to go all the way back to ancient Greece for this one.
Ooh,
The
Grease.
ancient tale of Greek mythology, creatures known as dirads were usually depicted as peaceful nymphs who lived in trees. They were often described as loving and benevolent beings. Later on, the term dryad or dyad, depending, Dryad for people at home that want to do the drinking game of Tommy Can't Read, was extended to tree spirits of any type. Dyads is a female tree spirit that chooses to live within a particular tree and takes on the form of a beautiful young woman rather than an animal or large bird.
That's so
Mhm.
cool.
The word dryad comes from the Latin word oak quercy, which is really interesting to me because again, Latin like is Greek and Latin basically makes up so much of our language.
True.
Whether it comes from like medical terminology,
Yep.
math, all that. The name dryad was derived from the Latin word again, which would be oak or quercy. They were also known by a different name, such as homodryads or hamarrods. Not hemorrhoids, by the way, guys. It's Hamadry. So hamadries, not hemorrhoids.
No,
That'd be
hemorrhoids.
yeah.
Hemorrhoids, not hemorrhoids.
As mentioned in Greek mythology, some believe that they were the daughters of Zeus, the supreme god of ancient Greece, while others think they were created by nymphs. In most stories, these three nymphs were inseparable.
What's a nymph?
A nymph, we could go down a whole suck about that. A nymph, I believe, is a type of fairy.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So Daphne was the first dryad to appear in Greek mythology. She was a nymph who lived near lakes along with her sister and her father. I'm not going to say that one. Peneus.
Pentas? No, wait.
I'm going to say penis. So
Pinus.
Daphne lived with Penis next to the lake. She she was she pursued she was pursued by Apollo, the god of the sun. Um, Phoebe was Apollo's second love
Phoebe or
interest.
Phoebe?
Phoebe.
Phoebe. Phoebe.
Phoebe was Apollo's second love interest. She was described as a great beauty and a nymph who loved to live in the woodlands, but she did not have a dad named Penis. But that gets us to hemorrhoids. Hamadrys. Uh, hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids was the third tree dyad to appear, and for the Greek and Italian culture, I do apologize. I have a mental issue. I'm assuming to any potential to any potential job job employers. I'm sorry. So anyway, the tree. I need a minute. Settle. Focus. Uh, Her name means of the oaks. According to the legend, she identifies with the oak trees that stood on the banks of a river near Thrieb in ancient Greece. What powers do these things have? It is said that they have great control over all the branches of the trees. They are also known to speak with animals and other spirits.
Oh,
Some say that dryads are the spirits of the person's family's home and that they can protect the spirits with their magic. Dryads are beautiful and often wear flowing robes made from leaves and flowers. Their skin is unusually pale or white, but some of them have dark hair or blue or green eyes. So, I mean, that's the Greek view of these things. But we're going to get to the other great culture that we deal with on this show so much. If you were around literally like it feels like 2 days ago for our Appalachian suck, you know about these people, you know them, you love them, the Celts. And if we talk about Celts, we got to talk about the Irish, right? And so with the Irish tree in Irish lore and Irish mythology and folklore often celebrates numerous benefits of different spiritual mythologies. However, the Celts cherished trees long before their environmental values were discovered. The Irish love for trees is reflected across the country as over 10,000 places in Ireland contain a tree in their name. Isn't that
that's
crazy?
cool.
Over 10,000. That's just nuts to me. Anyway, the Celts believed Irish trees were home to the spirits of their ancestors. As such, trees in ancient Ireland were believed to be protectors.
Mm,
5 Irish trees in particular were known as guardian trees of Ireland, which sheltered each of the 5 provinces. So to continue with that, the Celtics had this real spiritualistic, naturalistic approach to the trees, and that they do have souls. And what's so funny is they always look at these souls as good, even though there can be some evil spirits, but it's mostly good. But that kind of leads into today's story. What if they're not all good? Time now for the tale. Shh. The trees are sleeping.
here we go. Shh. The trees are sleeping. I recently moved because of work. It wasn't an easy decision because I had to leave all of my family and friends behind, but it was a great way for me to make my own life. My family are great, but I feel like I was being coddled too much. My friends were people I knew from high school, which when hanging out always devolved into immaturity whenever I was with them. Honestly, I just wanted to grow up. My work took me to a rural part of England. Luckily, I was given a hefty bonus, plus some funding from my parents, which gave me enough to buy my own place. I eventually settled in a house that was almost too big for one person, and also had a nice garden with a unique white tree in the center, which I adored. I mainly chose this house behind as behind the property there were many trails that I could explore, a hobby which I could never do in the city, but always fancied. I could now binge with this easy access. Hold on one second, I have to get rid of these notifications. It's killing me.
That's actually pretty nice to be able to get out there and have a job pay for you to completely transplant like that. That's pretty neat.
I know. It's so funny how they're like, I'm extra coddled, so I tried to get away from my parents, but also they helped me buy the property away from them. It's like,
To have rich white parents, I'm telling you.
Um, My parents also let me bring my childhood dog, Jackson.
Well, why wouldn't they let you bring the damn dog? We're gonna help you buy a house, but listen, the dog stays.
Right.
Like, that's not a deal.
As I was brought up with him for as long as I can remember. Well, sometimes dogs are best left with where they grew up because, like, obviously this dog, if they grew up with a person, they're probably a pretty old dog and it would be hard on them to relocate. That's the only
We're not
reason I
leaving
would think
JoJo
of
with
it.
other people.
Well, yeah. Even though I was trying to leave my old life behind, it's good to remember your roots. Plus, he provides me with the much needed company while I tried to get used to this new life. The deal I had for my house was pretty good. It's how I managed to get one much too big for my needs. I could either pay the large deposit, which was too much for me, or I could leave a more affordable deposit under the condition that if I left within a month, they kept the house and my deposit.
Whoa.
I had no plans on leaving, as my job position was pretty secured, so it was a good deal to me. While being shown around, I asked about the previous owner, a good idea to do when buying an unoccupied property. The estate agent told me that the previous owner had left suddenly, which is why they implemented the policy which I was signing up with. They also mentioned that the old owner had a cat, that there was a reward for it if it was returned. It was implied that the cat could just return to the garden on its own, or I could try to look for it when I went out on the trails. Positive about the neighborhood is that it was almost all old retired people living out their golden years in a nice rural scenic area. Sounds like a quiet little neighborhood, one of the best kinds. This was an amazing contrast from the hustle and noise of the city, something that I was not too fond of. I settled into work pretty fast, and it wasn't long until I was one of the many happy travelers walking along the trails with my dog, passing other cheery dog owners enjoying the scenery. These people were very friendly too, often stopping to say hello and let my dog socialize. During one of my many hikes, after venturing down one path for a while, I made my way to one of the entrances of the park. I usually started from behind my house and had never started from the entrance. I noticed a sign with a few rules telling hikers to stay on the designated routes, look for suspicious behavior, don't litter, don't be out at night, the
Mm-hmm.
usual rules you find at these kinds of trails. After about a week, I let my dog out one night to do his business, and after calling him back, he didn't return. I looked out and saw no way he could escape, so presumed he was just going to sleep outside for the night. The weather was nice, and sometimes he liked to do that.
Mm-mm.
I know, worst decision of their life. An odd thing for sure, but normal for Jackson, as he was an odd dog. Sadly, the day after, I called out for him, and he still didn't return. I walked around the garden to see if there were any holes in the fences he could have squeezed through, but saw no way for his escape. Perplexed, I took to the trails after work for a few hours to no avail. Fortunately, I had the next few days off of work due to a shipment error, so I decided to spend this time productively. I packed a large rucksack with food, some survivor gear, and a compass. My plan was to travel through the day and possibly into the night to see if I could find Jackson. I started on the main trails Jackson and I usually walked, occasionally asking the passerbys if they'd seen my dog. Nothing. I made my way to some of the routes that I hadn't explored yet, just in case Jackson got excited over the idea of new territory.
What kind of dog is Jackson? Would he do this?
She never said.
I'm thinking it's a beagle or some kind of tracking dog.
Possibly.
I mean, would like a JoJo wouldn't. I mean,
Even like a lab or whatever.
They wouldn't do this.
If they were a kind of lab that would chase a squirrel, yeah, they would. I mean, they get lost in the woods.
And he was in the backyard too, right?
Yeah, well, he had just moved there. Think about it. What if he wanted to try to go home to his home where he left?
Stop it. All right, continue. Go for it. Shit.
Again, nothing. It was apparent I'd been using the plethora of supplies I packed because the only areas left to search were off trail. My search eventually became quite a fun adventure. There was a lot of floral that wasn't on any of the other main trails, which looked amazing. I also saw hints of wildlife, Getting into the evening, I found myself at the entrance to a grove of white trees similar to the one in my garden. I wandered in, getting a closer look at these bizarre trees. The bark was pale and felt rubbery. It had an almost translucent look to it. A very unique texture to me, but I'm no expert on trees. Once in the middle of this unusual area, I felt it was a perfect place to settle down and eat my dinner. I packed some simple sandwiches and ate them while watching the sun settle behind the trees. The way the dimming orange glow bounced off the white leaves looked astonishing and made my meal time worth the travel. Just before the sun set, I heard a rustle behind me. I turned to see a deer stalking around the area. I quietly packed my lunchbox away and pulled out my phone to see if I could sneak a photo. The deer looked picturesque in the dim glow of the sun and the pale trees surrounding it. Just as I was about to take a picture, the sun set and the area plunged into darkness. A wind blew up above, and I heard the trees shaking. The deer's ears perked up. Startled, it ran away. The wind stopped, but strangely, the rustling didn't. I turned around to see the branches of the trees starting to swing wildly. As I was trying to comprehend this strange sight, a branch swooped down and punctured straight into my bag. Before I knew what was happening, I was being lifted into the air at a terrifying speed. I reacted by undoing the buckle on my bag and I was dropped to the ground. I looked up to see all the branches acting in this strange behavior. They were twitching in an uncanny way. Definitely not the influence of any kind of wind or weather. This was purely the movement of the trees themselves. Out of instinct, I started running as fast as I could.
Get out of there.
I turned on the light on my phone to help guide me. To my right, I heard the wailing of a dying animal. I turned to see the deer I was watching just moments ago being forced into the trunk of the tree through the top. Its its branches impaling and pushing the struggling deer as it was forced into the tree's maw. This prompted me to run as fast as I could, ignoring the dangers of tripping. I ducked and weaved around the branches that were swinging wildly, getting scraped and smacked in the face a few times. I swiped away the water building up in my eyes, only to see that I was about to run face first into a branch. I skidded to a halt and closed my eyes, expecting to be scooped up and ended like the deer I witnessed only moments ago. After a moment, I opened my eyes and saw the tree was still. It was just a normal oak tree. I turned back to see I was out of the surreal area of white trees. As I was watching from a distance, I saw a fox taking a similar route as me out of the danger zone. I saw it almost escape. But just as it was about to hit a safe distance, it was taken by surprise by a wild swing and pulled back. The fox screaming a deafening wail of defeat as it was crunched and devoured by one of the trees. Seeing that, I accepted how lucky I was to escape with only a few cuts and bruises. I eventually made my way to the edge of the woods and saw my garden fence. I was so relieved that I didn't bother to open the gate. I simply slumped myself over and rolled onto my back in relief. As I lay there, I closed my eyes trying to comprehend all that I had witnessed, none of which made any sense to me. While I was in this state of thought, I heard a strange sound, similar to the creaking of an old floorboard or the opening of a stiff door. But for some reason, the sound was coming from above me. I opened my eyes to see the tree in my garden starting to jerk and twist to life, seemingly picking up that I was within its reach. I bolted upright and made a dash to my back door, fumbling for my keys as the tree began sweeping its branches around. Starting with where I was lying down, I saw that it picked up on my trail, moving its sharp branches point first along the same route I had ran. Luckily, I had managed to open the door and get inside as the branch scraped along the closing door. I made my way to my bed, taking one last look out my window at the tree, which was slowly juddering back to its original shape. I lay down struggling to sleep, but eventually the exhaustion took over. The next day I woke up and looked out the window. The tree was motionless. I slowly made my way to the garden and grabbed my washing pole. Don't know what a washing pole is. I had been in the garden many times and picked up that the movements in the forest only started after the sun had set. I slowly prodded at the tree to see if it'll react. Nothing happened, which confirmed my belief. I searched my shed, finding an array of old, abandoned tools. On the wall was a slightly rusted hatchet. With malice, I grabbed it firmly and sternly, made my way to the abomination. My eyes watered slightly as I started hacking away at the trunk. The hatchet was blunt, so it took a long time of chopping, but adrenaline was fueling each swing. About a quarter of the way through, a strange liquid started to coat the axe. I let it seep out and saw it was steaming slightly. Not wanting to stop, but not wanting to get any on me, I put on some gardening gloves and goggles and carried on. The deeper I got, the more the strange fluid stained the pale bark a deep amber. Eventually, I made it far enough to push the tree over and let its own weight snap the rest of the trunk. It seemed my nightmare wasn't over yet. In the center was the remains of a carcass. The flesh was almost all dissolved away, making it unrecognizable. But one thing stood out to me: the dog collar that still faintly read Jackson. Out of respect, I gently pulled it out. Underneath was the dissolving remains of another animal, vaguely reminiscent to a cat. It wasn't hard to figure out who it belonged to. After I knelt down to look through the fallen tree and saw it was all hollow, with rows upon rows of small needle-like teeth, I cringed at the thought of how painful it would be to be forced down that shaft against your will into the disgusting acid below. From how shallow the teeth are, I can imagine there's a chance you could hit the bottom without dying straight away, a fate I imagine is worse than death. I used the hatchet to make a makeshift hole to bury Jackson. I left the collar on as a memorial. After the whole ordeal, I made my way back to my living room. Dirty and in shock, I lay down, eyes open, just contemplating all that I had witnessed and what I should do. It was a lot to take in. I was awoken from this trance when I heard a key rattling at my door and mumblings from outside. Perplexed, I sat up, watching as I saw 3 people entering my house, talking jovially. It was the estate agent from before, showing around a young couple, just at the end of explaining how the previous tenant left without notice. I gave an exaggerated cough and saw the blood drain from the estate agent's face. She quickly dismissed the couple to have an impromptu meeting with me. She knew they were busted, but gave me an interesting deal. She offered to pay me a rather large figure to never tell anyone about their scheme. I know it was wrong to accept, but I felt it was my best option. In my opinion, there was no easy way I could blow the whistle on this, as it's one of the most unbelievable things I can imagine. I didn't let this on during the negotiations. I didn't let this on during the negotiations and walked out with enough money for me to be set for a long number of years. As promised, I've never investigated anything since, nor have I warned any of the people moving there. And that was the tale. Shh, the trees are sleeping.
Oh my God. So your silence for your dog dying a horrific death? I don't think I could do that.
But they made money off. I'm not saying that it's a good deal. I'm not saying that's a good deal, but they got out of the house alive.
Oh my God, I'd burn that whole fucking place to the
Yeah,
ground.
that's true.
And I would go back into the woods with a goddamn chainsaw and we'd have a fucking lumberjack commercial the next day.
Right. Just go chop down all the white trees.
Because that's like, you tried to get me murdered.
Yeah, they assumed that she was dead. That's why they brought the people to come look at the house.
And you still had the hatchet. And he said, like, called you a meeting. I'd be like putting him down in the chairs. Like, why should I not bludgeon your ass to death here and blame it on the tree
Yeah,
right now?
because literally you tried to murder me.
Okay, that was intense. That was an intense story.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Fuck.
And it was such like a plot twist too at the very end, knowing the estate agents knew everything about it and then just people died all the time. Or they saw it and left
Such an
because they
inside
knew they
thing
weren't gonna
too.
get
Like
their money
everyone in
back.
the community is like, "Oh, hi, how are you? How are you doing tonight? Everything's fine." It's like, besides, we got some psycho trees here. Like, oh my god,
Right, nobody talks about it.
why would you leave your dog out at night? I don't know. No, it's not like
No, leaving their
you
dog
wouldn't
out
have
at
thought a
night isn't a
tree would
big
have done
deal.
that though. God damn it, that
But
sucks.
the yard was fenced in. Like, what did she have to lose? You know what I mean? Like, especially if the yard was a small yard, which most houses, have pretty small yards in little communities like that. It's like 1/4 an acre or less. So literally, like, there's not many places for the dog to go. If she had a deck or a porch or something, the dog could have gone under the deck or porch to take a nap.
Poor thing. Well, that was depressing as hell, guys. I'm sorry. Wow. Great
Yeah,
story though. It was a good story. It
really
had me
sad.
riveting. It
I
did.
know. The description of the trees was great.
No, it was. And just
Horrifying.
yeah, because that like it's like a Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
And you just think about like that, and like, okay, well, how strong is it? What can be as strong as it wants to be? But the fact, like, yeah, you don't see it coming. I think that's the thing about these things. Like, that's where they have their powers, the surprise of it,
Yeah.
because it's a hell of a flaw that you're basically screwed in the daytime.
Right.
So it's all about like, yeah, that's oof. Carly. That was a great story. Good to get us back on track after my blubber mouth. That was really good. So again, guys, everything will be linked in the episode description below. Of course, this story. This is a big time Reddit story
Mhm.
online, and I see why. Very, very good. Um, anyway, so I guess with this point, we're going to get into our vacation. Correct?
Yeah,
Our
let's
little
talk
ghost stories.
about our ghost hunt. And after experiencing this ghost hunt, now, mind you, there were two different options. We could have gone the ghost hunt, I think, intense, and then the ghost hunt extreme or whatever. We did the intense, which was the 2 hours. We regret not doing the 3 hours, but the 3 hour ghost hunt ended at
Mm-hmm.
like 12 o'clock in the morning. And we had like an hour and a half drive home. So we decided to only do the 2 hour long one, which put us home at like 12:30 a.m. Um, but I think next time for sure, we're definitely
Oh yeah.
we're
Well,
gonna do another ghost hunt, maybe at Gettysburg, maybe somewhere else. But I think that they are way cooler than doing ghost tours.
it was a lot of fun, and, like, again, I love the history part of that thing. Like, that was so freaking cool to kinda, like, learn the background information about the place,
Mhm.
because again, I think that adds an extra layer to it that you really don't get when you just, like, show up and, like, "Oh, it's spooky." Like, well, why?
Right.
The why is so important to these stories, um, like, especially this one. It's just like, I feel like my heart's racing right now. It's like, oof. Because like it's everything around it that makes it so good. And so really to kind of get into this, guys, let me kind of paint the scene with it, and we're gonna share my screen here. Get this right there. So I get that. All right, cool, perfect. And there we go. So this right here is Gettysburg. So I don't know if you guys can see this okay, but this is kind of like a small picture from the Gettysburg battle. And
Can
then,
you
of
make it any
course,
bigger?
yeah, well, in the re-upload, it's going to be bigger too.
Okay.
But Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle in American history, with over 7,000 dead, which is more than Iwo Jima or Okinawa, or basically any one battle in World War II or Vietnam. Any war that you think of, this is the bloodiest battle. So a lot of death happened in a short period of time. And then from there, we're going to kind of get into some of the pictures and stuff that we did. Um, Kind of get this right here. Perfection. Here we go.
What's the name of that bridge again? Oh, you shouldn't turn the audio on.
So anyway, with that there, and again, link to all the stuff in the description.
There you go.
So this is one of the bridges, one of the old bridges here that had a lot of hauntings, a lot of suicides over, um, back down in Gettysburg. This right here is the old church that we were actually in,
It's
and
a
it
schoolhouse,
was a schoolhouse. I'm
not a
sorry,
church.
and what was so cool is they allowed us all to have GoPros. So in this photo right here, that is my mother, and that is
Hey,
my
Linda.
wife pointing
My rods.
her rods at my mom, and my mom giving her a deathly glare with the rods. My mom also has a heat gun or a thermometer, a digital thermometer in her hand,
Yes.
and you use these to actually check the different areas for like temperature changes, right, Carly?
Yeah, if it's a like a 5-degree difference up or down, that means that you are coming across something supernatural.
Which is just that, and that was really cool. That's really cool. Those are the rods. this is
That
the
chair's how many people died in that chair?
I think they said, like, 6 old people died in this one chair.
Old men. They were always old
So
men
they figured
died
I
in
was the
that
oldest
chair.
one there to actually do this to.
I think it was a male.
What's impressive to me is the lighting on these phones are amazing because it was pitch black when we did
Oh,
this.
yeah, no, there
So,
was
yeah,
no electricity in the
none.
houses or in the
And
schoolhouse.
that's done for a reason.
Right. Well, obviously, so that we could
So the EMF finders would work
yes.
because if you had a lot of electrical signals around there, it would really pick up on that.
Right.
But then that's where the divining rods came in, is because those are super sensitive. So even like running water, they would be affected by.
Yeah.
So you had different levels of being able to pick up the electromagnetic field that could be around some paranormal entity.
Right. So
So
that's why Tom looks so squinty is because I took
yeah,
pictures
you're
and the
strobing them.
flash was on and I was strobing him.
So right here, my mom doesn't have a bomb attached to her breast. That's another EMF finder, and she's got her rods. She's sticking her rods, looking forward, and I'm very
Intent.
intent on whatever she's pointing her
Like
rods
you're
at.
also trying to look away from the camera.
Yeah. And then right here, this is going to get into it. So these school chairs. So what happened at this school was there was a fire that broke out, and apparently a lot of kids actually ended up dying.
Yeah.
This school also doubled as a hospital during the Civil War.
Mhm.
And then this is what's really creepy is there's an old water pump outside, and this water pump was used to really give water to the whole community. And that water pump was actually tainted because of the amount of people that were buried there.
Right.
And so tons of people died after the war because of this thing.
Mhm.
And so it's so funny that this one water pump was not only used to help put out the fire that was at the school that ended up killing people, but people drank from that and also ended up like
Dying.
dying.
That
And
that water pump was just, I mean, reeking of like
signals and things like
yeah,
that.
the EMFs were going off. But the crazy thing is the EMF finders didn't go off at the same place constantly. It would just go off in one spot
Hmm.
and then you'd have to move it somewhere else, then would go off to another spot. This is a picture of me holding up one of my little EMF finders underneath the schoolhouse because obviously there wasn't like a basement, bless you, or anything. There was no basement or anything. It was just like a big empty space underneath the schoolhouse. So I was trying to see if there were any ghosts hiding
Hmm.
down there.
Yeah. So, and that was like there was one spot there that I went past the house at night, and I really did feel like I got cold for some reason. I thought, whatever, it's like getting late at night,
Mhm.
and then somebody else actually walked past that same spot, which is so cool because it was a group of us. And, oh man, it's so cold in this corner. I was like, holy shit, what corner?
Mhm.
And so like we both had that same weird like chill in that same corner, which is really creepy. This is just another picture of that, and then this is
Oh,
our dog.
go back.
This is Jojo.
Go back.
Now you know why this story we just listened to today really hurt me. Is I just don't want to think about this stupid little muffin getting eaten by a tree.
Little cuddle
But
muffin.
in the same token, if my dog got eaten by a tree, I'm gonna be like, I'll pay you money. He's like, I'm gonna take this hatchet and I'm gonna bury it in your goddamn skull.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go out in the woods with a chainsaw and I'm gonna mow all those trees down.
Tom
Um,
really, really loves JoJo.
so anyway, here's like yeah. So anyway, so now what I'm gonna show you guys, let me show you, and we're gonna cut screens here real quick. Hold on one second.
Un momento, por
And now we're
favor.
gonna get up a video and some audio that we have from this event. So we really think that we might have actually seen some kind of paranormal entity
I
here.
know that I saw a ghost.
Okay, well, there you go. So she thinks she actually saw a ghost.
I know I saw a
So let
ghost.
me get this up for you guys.
I know I saw at least 2 ghosts.
All right, there we go.
Cool. Okay, so for those of you
Walk
who
them
have
through.
iPhones, I don't know anything about Android, Samsungs, whatnot. But for those of you who have iPhones, you know how you can take pictures that are live photos, where if you hold your phone or you hold your finger down on the photo itself, it shows you basically like a little tiny little miniature video, okay, of the moment in time where your phone took the picture. Okay, so I did that for each of the pictures that I took at this old schoolhouse. And this particular moment, we're sitting down. We were told by the host to basically offer to talk to the children and see if any of the children would come communicate back with us, offer to tell them stories, sit around on the school chairs with little stuffed animals, try to get somebody introduce yourself as Miss Bird, Miss Carly, because obviously they were kids, so all the adults to them
Hmm.
were introduced by Miss or Mrs or Mister, and come and try to see if they'll come sit on the chair. So we sat our EMF finders on the chairs to see if our EMF finders would go off while we're over there, like talking about, hey, let's give you a story about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, that kind of deal. So then later on that night, I went back to look at these pictures that I took. And I think that here in this chair on the left corner, we had a ghost sitting in that chair. I don't know if you can see the flash from where you're at, but there's a flash that goes off where the edge of that chair is. The EMF finder did not go off, so we're assuming that I guess the presence wasn't quite strong enough to hit the EMF finder. Maybe it didn't work, but right there, you can see an outline, like an oval of a body sitting on the chair for a split second. And that's the first picture. And that's the chair closest to me.
And then if you're asking why the image keeps coming up, we actually edited it to make it in a loop so you can like see it multiple times.
Yes.
It just appeared once actually on the camera.
Yeah. And so here is the second time we noticed something right here in the very middle of the screen, close to Tom's shoe. You can see that little flash. You see how it keeps flashing? That's because Tom's playing it over and over and over again. But if you do it in a slow motion fashion, then you can see that flash again of this being walking across the screen. So those are the two ghosts that I captured on camera at our ghost hunt.
It was pretty intense. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty intense. But that kind of gets us into what I got, I was working on, which was the old audio. So we also recorded some audio from this whole shindig,
Oh, we got the whole shindig on our GoPro footage
which was
too,
interesting.
on top of that. So we had GoPro footage, we had which we haven't even been able to go over the GoPro footage very much. I'm really excited to see what that picked up while we were taking pictures with the flash.
So,
Like who
but
the heck knows what we
with that
picked up.
stated, let's paint the scene here for this
Okay,
thing.
okay. Paint the scene.
So, go for it. You were there.
All right,
You
so
do the
we went into
question.
this room called the Jesus room because it has a picture of Jesus. I walked into the corner of the room basically, and I was holding up my little rods to see if I could feel anything. Well, my right rod starts jiggling, okay? Starts pulling to the right. The left rod, nothing was going on. And Linda then with her thermometer, her little laser beam thermometer, she pings the wall right next to me because I'm kind of standing in this corner. She was behind me and she shows the laser on the wall. And she starts shining around the wall, the same place my little rod's starting to vibrate.
Sorry. Continue.
So it's the same place this rod is vibrating is where Linda starts to point the thermometer at the wall. Okay, so um, she got some kind of reading, a supernatural entity, because the wall itself, I think it dropped down 8 degrees just in a split
Mhm.
second, and went down 8 degrees, and then she went away from it, and it went up 8 degrees because that was the normal temperature of the wall, and then she went back to the same spot just to make sure it wasn't a fluke, and it went down 8 degrees again. So there was something standing close to me, okay? And then that's when we got out these radios. What are they called again, Tom?
They're just there were radios that could play stuff on a loop. Audio on a loop.
Okay, so basically, you go to this part on the radio station. You could technically find a radio station that's playing music, or you could go to this part on the radio itself where it just sounds like, like white noise, basically.
Mhm.
Or there's was one channel that we were supposed to use. It sounds like more like a like that constantly, and then every once in a while you can hear kind of like the radio voice bleeding through it, or if you're lucky you can get some kind of like entity talk to you through the radio, and then that's how they can communicate through the rods, where they can move the rods back and forth for you while you're holding it still, or they can communicate to you through the radio. So at that point, after Linda found the entity on the wall, we all turned together and we huddle, all three of us,
Mhm.
me, Tom, Linda. Okay. We pull the radio out because we're like, let's talk to this sucker. We're assuming that it's a soldier. And then Tom pulls the radio out. He turns on the channel, and for some reason, Tom wanted to make it as complicated as possible.
I did.
And he also had this problem the entire night of asking the ghosts too many questions at one time. He would be like, What's your name? What's your favorite color? Where are you at? What'd you do? Are you a child? Are you an adult?" And we're all just like standing there looking at him like, seriously, there is no way for it to answer any of those questions ever. And why did you ask them all in
I
this like within one breath?
yeah,
What is
like to
happening?
my defense, like I was really excited to be there.
He was very
I
excited.
was extremely like I was hopped up. I
Yeah,
was like ready to go get after it.
I know. You're like on cocaine.
I was.
So
I was on high on life,
so
as they
anyway,
say.
back to that moment. We're all huddled together in the Jesus room, and Tom goes, "Hi, Ghost. If you want us to leave, say Tom. If you want us to stay, say Bird." Okay. Which Bird is my last name. For some
Mhm.
reason, he said, say Bird, not Spirit. If you want us to leave, say leave. If you want us to stay, say stay. No, he had to apply a completely, you know, abstract word to create new meaning. He's basically
I
creating
did.
a new language with the ghost here in this moment. All right. And I will forever tease him about this. So then on the I want to call it a remote, on the radio, we heard something say, Harley. And it was a male's voice. And I thought it sounded like I could not believe my ears. I looked at Thomas and I said, "Tom, is that a recording?" Like, because I thought it was a joke.
Mhm.
I thought Tom was playing a joke on me because it sounded like Carly, like something shouted, "Carly," on this remote. And I was just like standing there in shock. Linda's like, "Oh no, that's the radio." And then right after that, you can hear it a little bit better in kind of like a fainter, like Carly, kind of like that. Okay. And so I was done at that point. I was like, we met ghosts tonight, boys, and they're saying my name. The end. So this is on like repeat play. Like Thomas has got the audio
Mhm.
turned up.
So, like, I don't know. What do you think of that? What do you think it was? Like to me, I don't know if it was saying Carly or if it was saying now. Now my tinfoil hat theory is that thing was actually saying Carly backwards.
Well,
Like
that would have been like a demon then. That's how
yeah.
demons communicate.
Well, what if the radio is actually signaling backwards, not forwards? You know what I mean? It could have been that.
Okay.
But anyway, the point is like I felt definitely I felt the spirit too. I felt like a weird heebie-jeebie moment. Um, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was just so cool to like participate in that too. Like to say like you did it.
There's a big group of people, but
Yes.
not too big. I think they were all together. There were like one, two, three, four groups of like 3 to 4 people each.
Mhm.
So it was a comfortable sized group, and the building itself was large enough with enough rooms that we could all spread out and pretty much not even see each other while we're doing all of this. And we can go outside and like climb under the building and everything. So it was just really, really fun, and it gave us some opportunities to be little ghost hunters.
It was like I hopefully we get to do it again. Actually, I'm gonna try to do this right now. Hold on. Let me
Yeah,
see if I
I'm
can.
gonna post those pictures on our Instagram page so that you guys can kind of dissect them and make a decision for yourself. Did we actually see a ghost? Was it just a technical glitch that I happened to catch twice?
Mhm.
Or was there a little ghost baby sitting next to me in the chair?
We'll find out next time. But guys, thank you so much. This was week 42 of Spirits and Ghost Stories. Hopefully, we'll do another ghost hunt here shortly. And remember, if you're outside at night, be careful of the trees. Bye, guys.